By now you know that HTML describes the content of a web page. But how do you describe the meaning of a web page? To understand this in a real-world context, think of buttons in an elevator. The vertical arrangement of buttons isn't enough for someone to understand their meaning. To convey the meaning or semantics of the buttons, numbers are added so that people know which button will take them to which floor. When you write HTML, it's good practice to semantically describe the content. This allows search engines and accessibility software, such as screen readers, to understand the contents of a page. Fortunately, you can do this by using some basic HTML tags. For example, using a heading tag such as H1 describes that the content is a heading. Similarly, the UL and OL tags describe lists. However, there are many more semantic HTML elements available to you as a developer. In this video, I will share a structured approach you can take to make sure that you create a well-formed web page. Let's revisit the basic structure of a HTML page, which includes the head and body. Inside the body tag, you can lay out the website with various semantic tags to describe each of the sections. For a typical HTML page, the structure can be semantically described using the header, main, and footer semantic HTML tags. For example, suppose you lay out your page with a header section that contains some company logo and navigation links. Then a main section contains sections and articles. Finally, a footer section contains contact information and social media links. The main navigation section of your web page can also be described semantically using the nav tag. Depending on how a web page is designed, the nav element is often placed after the header element, and the header element is used for logos. The main links of your website are then added inside the nav element. It is common practice for developers to specify their links as an unordered list inside the nav element. Next is the main content of a web page. The two key semantic elements for your main content are the article and section elements. First, let's examine the article element. The HTML specification states that, according to the World Wide Web Consortium's website, the article element indicates content which represents a complete or self-contained composition in a document, page, application, or site that is independently distributable. That's quite a mouthful. It may help to think of a page in a newspaper. There are many articles on the page, and you can cut out the individual articles with scissors if you want to. The articles you can remove are like the article element. Examples of this include a forum post, a magazine or newspaper article, a blog entry, a user-submitted comment, an interactive widget or gadget, or any independent independent item of content. Let's examine how the article element is used. Say you are developing a blog about your summer holiday. It's good practice to contain the blog post content inside of the article element because it's a complete self-contained composition on a web page. You should place the article element within your main element. Then you add your regular heading and paragraph tags inside the article element. The reason for doing it this way is because the main element semantically represents the main content of the page. And inside of it, there can be multiple article elements for something like a blog post list. At the end of your document is the footer element. This might contain additional navigation links or other content. It is important to note that semantic elements are not limited to this structure. Since their purpose is to describe the semantics of the content, the elements can be nested inside of each other if it accurately describes the content. Let's update the previous example to use a nested semantic structure. You add a header element to the article element. Inside the header element, add the heading element with the blog title and a paragraph element describing the date and author of the blog post. Inside the main element, add the content of the blog post. That's it. Let's examine the section element. You can add a section element to semantically define individual sections of the article. It is important to note that sections should contain heading elements to semantically describe the section. It is also possible to use section elements to describe different sections of your web page. The section element doesn't require the article element. It all depends on how you want to semantically describe your page. And now you know how to semantically describe the contents of a web page. Your web page is more accessible because the content is semantically described to add meaning. Now search engines and accessibility software can easily understand the contents of your well-formed web page.